So we're going to be going through some moments in my life through film. If we start with The Beads, which came out in 2024, actually, before we do that, let's go back a little bit to Wedding Party, which I think is still a crowd favorite. One of the moments in my life during then that I remember the most was I'd been living in Calabar for some time, having worked with Ebony Live TV as a presenter and producer that had zero experience in the field. I remember us trying to figure out what the set of the spot would look like and working with a set designer that came in from South Africa. And myself and my colleagues, Lamide and Ebuka, we had like a mood board. We were putting all the ideas together. We were just people who had a vision and we didn't know what it was going to look like. And we were taking a huge risk because this was going to be a new TV station. And we were going to be like the first set of people that you were going to see every single day. So the pressure was on to deliver a show that people will love. And I'm so grateful that till now, I still get messages about that show. I still get people who DM me and say, oh my gosh, I remember I learned this from you guys. Or I remember when you had this person on the show and how amazing it is to see all of your careers kind of take the trajectory and direction that it did. So shortly after doing that, moving back to Lagos, getting asked to audition for the wedding party. Funny enough, I originally went into audition for the bride. And after my first audition, I was then asked to actually, yeah, we were still in the room when I'm not sure if it was MA or maybe the director or Kemi or someone that was like, we'd like to see you read for the wedding planner. I was like, okay, cool. I'd love to do this. Any opportunity to do this, I'll say yes. And so I read for the wedding planner and they were like, yeah, this fits. When I look back at it, I think Wonu was such a defining moment, such a defining character in my career, to the point that she will never be forgotten. Another significant moment in film for me was, I'll probably say, this is attached to God Calling project. I think that project caught me at a time when spiritually I was like in a bit of a funk. And I was unsure as to whether or not I wanted to pursue this, especially because it was a film that was faith-based. I didn't want to find myself sort of pigeonholed, but I also I wasn't aware of the significance of what that film would represent. So I remember I had a first audition, then I had a second audition. And in my second audition, I can't remember what scene I was doing, but it was a very like emotionally charged scene. And I did it and was crying, like the character was crying. But then I realized that I myself didn't stop crying. So here I was in a room with a director, producer, and everyone, finished taking my lines, was in an emotional space, and just found myself like kneeling on the floor in tears. And I heard the director say, just give her a minute. I don't know how long that lasted for, but clearly wherever I was, like mentally and emotionally and spiritually then, it all kind of poured out into that moment. And, they gave me the job. It happened again on set, the day that we were shooting that scene. And I just continued to just cry. And I remember every time I'd go home, I'd say to myself that I'm sure my security guard thinks like, whatever this woman is going through at work is really serious because every day she's coming back with like mascara is running and she just looks like she's just been through it. And so that was a project for me that took a lot like physically and also emotionally and was just extremely like rewarding spiritually because once again, the people that came that would message and say, I was in such a tough space with God and I didn't know how to find myself back, but this spoke to me. Or I'd lost my faith and this reconnected me. On the Edge came out in 2024 and That film caught me at an interesting time physically, health wise, because I was still in the middle of treatment for endometriosis, and I was discovering what that represented. And there were so many things that I was so unprepared for. A lot of the symptoms that was attached to the treatment, for example, just being extremely fatigued and tired, to losing my hair, to feeling sick, to just having like reactions to medication. And I'm a very private person, so I don't really talk about my personal life. But in this case, with the health advocacy, I was more than comfortable with sharing what that was like because I wanted other women to feel seen. I wanted them to feel encouraged to go and seek answers. And so while I was on this set, I obviously couldn't divulge like too much information or any information at all. But I mean, I had a great team to work with in terms of the director and producer who were always like so supportive. And I had to just, regardless of what was happening in my life, I had to show up. What that project taught me was just that I have an immense amount of strength. And whenever I need to dig deep, I can, and I can deliver. And, God is just always so graceful in ensuring that everything that we need in order for us to perform is easily accessible. So, yeah, that was an interesting time. Felt like the toughest time, but by the time the project came out, it was totally worth it. So finally, we are at Beads. So Beads came out in 2024. This was a project that was again coming at a very interesting point in my life when I had felt like I wanted to expand. I wanted to do more. I wanted to see what was out there for me as an actor. I have built an amazing career in the last, I've been in the Nollywood space for just over 12 plus years. In the world of film, maybe plus 15 years. And I'm so grateful to what this industry has allowed me to be a part of and what it's allowed me to create and the opportunities that it has opened for me. But as I said, as a creative, you're constantly, or as a creative that's also a bit of an overachiever, you're always looking for what's next. And what is that next thing that's going to challenge you and going to stretch you? And so Beats came to me at a point where I was trying to decide, what do I do? Do I say I'm done? Or do I say I want to go into a different terrain and see what that is like? I started off my career almost I wouldn't say by accident. I didn't intend on being an actor. I got my law degree and planned to become a intellectual property lawyer. It just so happened that I was someone who was also very creative as a model and as a presenter, that this space was available to me. And I just continued to push and see what happened, and just more doors kept opening. So during the beads, I had to decide, do you go somewhere else and see what that's like? Do you expand into a new territory as someone with all this wealth of experience and risk it? So at the time that the beats came out, I found myself sitting asking whether or not it was time to expand globally. I wanted to try my hand at more challenging opportunities. And that meant sort of dividing my time. And so I did. I took that risk. And it's been paying off. It's not an easy risk because you want to make sure that you continue to nurture the market that built all of this, or that reinforce all of this. And I'm grateful that people continue to remember my talent and remember my name and say, hey, let's give Zainab a call. We had a great time working with her before. Let's do it again. And I'm grateful that I have the ability to continue to nurture this space and this community that has given me so many amazing opportunities, and to have built something that has international credibility, whereby yes, there's the option to go outside and work on other sort of like global projects, and that's where I've always felt like the brand should be. I am Nigerian through and through, and people will always hear that. It will always be a part of the story. But now I want to be able to take what we've created, what we've built together, put it on the world stage, and just show how fantastic we are.